Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. Democrats scored a huge political victory last night, taking New York's 26th district, adding another Democratic seat to the House of Representatives. The seat was previously held by Republican Chris Lee until he was busted taking topless photos of himself to solicit women on Craigslist. Despite the fact that only 3 Democrats have ever held the seat since 1857, and Republicans led by Karl Rove in the Chamber of Commerce dumped millions in the race, outspending the Democrat by somewhere between 2-1 and 4-1, Democrat Kathy Hochul still prevailed, taking 48% of the vote to Republican Jane Corwin's 42% of the vote. There was a third-party candidate, Jack Davis, but he only took 8% of the vote. The Republicans successfully turned this election into a referendum on the Democrats successfully turned this election into a referendum on the Republicans' plan to end Medicare. And as we see today, the American people aren't putting up with that right-wing radical agenda. As chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Steve Israel said, today the Republican plan to end Medicare cost Republicans $3.4 million and a seat in Congress. And this is only the first seat. He's right, if the Democrats can stay on message. Students are screwed. Republicans are undermining public policy and education in America. All around the country, Republican governors are pillaging their state's education budgets, siphoning off hundreds of millions of dollars from public education and moving that money into voucher programs. These voucher programs even give corporations dollar-for-dollar tax breaks when they give families a voucher to send their students to a charter school or a private religious school. So the government, through corporate middlemen, is funding religious schools. In Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker is slashing $900 million out of his education budget and adding $750 million to the school voucher program. Likewise, in New Jersey, Governor Chris Christie cut $820 million out of his education budget last year and created an $825 million school voucher program this year. Since Reagan, Republicans have been trying to kneecap public education in America just so corporate CEOs and churches can turn education into their big business. Thomas Jefferson devoted his life to free public education available to everyone in America, rich or poor. But today, Republicans are turning their back on our most influential founding father. In the best of the rest of the news, Wall Street regulators are finally holding oil speculators accountable for their role in the 2008 surge in gas prices. 2 speculators are facing charges by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission for manipulating the oil market. The speculators are accused of driving up the price of oil by purchasing millions of barrels of future oil contracts, oil that they didn't actually have to take possession of thanks to 30 years of financial deregulation. Then after they made their profits, they sold off all that oil, crashing the price while they shifted their bets from long to short, making money on the crash too. The speculators made $50 million on the deal, but now the CFTC is considering leveling them with a $150 million fine, one of the largest in the history of the CFTC. If you robbed a 7-Eleven and made off with $100, do you think the police would settle the matter for you with a fine of $300? These guys should be in jail. It looks like the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan not only suffered one meltdown after the March 11th earthquake, it suffered 3 meltdowns. All 3 damaged reactors melted down in the days after the quake as TEPCO officials desperately tried to spray water into the cores to cool them. TEPCO officials are downplaying the size of the meltdown, claiming that holes only the size of a few centimeters were burned into the containment vessels. Now, one nuclear watchdog based in France is encouraging the Japanese government to evacuate another 70,000 people living near the Fukushima plant. Republicans of the Party of Gold, state lawmakers in Utah, passed a law this month that made Utah the first state in the country to recognize gold and silver as legal currency. A growing movement afoot within the Republican Party to put the U.S. dollar back on the gold standard. In other words, peg the dollar's value at whatever the value of gold is right now, a commodity whose price is extremely volatile thanks to financial speculation. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard in the 1970s after economists realized it was doing us more harm than good. But Republicans, with their bizarre obsessions, don't like the idea of our government defining the value of our dollar. They'd rather put it in the hands of Goldman Sachs and other speculators in the gold market like Glenn Beck. Self-proclaimed America's Sheriff Joe Arpaio isn't too good with handling money. According to the Maricopa County manager, Sheriff Joe has misspent and wasted nearly $100 million given to his county over the last few years. Money was supposed to go toward operating new prison facilities. Instead, Joe used it for his own pet projects like investigating human smuggling and corruption. Officials grew suspicious about how the money was being used when they noticed rampant inefficiencies in Sheriff Joe's operation, including neglecting to transport defendants to court. In one day, more than half of the defendants missed their court dates. Now Maricopa County is trying to figure out how to repay the nearly $100 million misspent by Sheriff Joe while they investigate if any other funds have been misspent. I'm guessing Sheriff Joe will blame the fiasco on all the illegals coming across the border, like most right-wingers in Arizona do. Crazy alert. Need a new pair of sunglasses? The U.S. Marshal's Office is currently holding an auction on many of the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski's personal items. Bids have been rolling in on items like the Unabomber's typewriter that's currently up to $11,000, a handwritten copy of his manifesto at more than $17,000. But the hottest item right now is, of course, the aviator sunglasses and hooded sweatshirt that the Unabomber was wearing in that infamous police sketch, bidding at over $20,000. The auction ends in a week with lots of other items up for grab, like a pair of hiking boots and personal photos of the Unabomber in the 60s. I'm guessing the items that don't sell can be put up on a new upstart website, eBay for Terrorists. And that's the way it is today, Wednesday, May 25th, 2011. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.